please.
So this is our perspective as foreigners looking at kind of just like what's going on here.
Hey there! 皆さん、こんにちは。アーサーです。今回の動画では、あなたの英語のレッスンを鍛えるためのネイティブ同士の会話をお届けしたいと思います。で、このチャンネルを始めたのは、より多くの方が生の世界で実際に使える英語力を身につけてほしかったからですね。で、そのために、The Austin and Arthur Show という別のチャンネルで僕とアメリカ人の友達のオースティンとの生の会話をシェアし始めたのですが、やっぱり 100% 英語だし字幕がないとかなりハードルが高いですね。で、そこであなたのリスニングと理解度が確認できるように、ここのチャンネルで英語と日本語の字幕を両方つけてお届けしています。で、今回の会話は外国人から見た日本の性差別についてお話しするのですが、字幕がなくてもいいし、他の会話が聞きたい場合はぜひ The Austin and Arthur Show という別のチャンネルをチェックしてね。で、それでは Let's get started!
Welcome to the Austin Arthur Show's
The
last
final episode.
The final episode.
Cheers. And why is it the final episode?
Hey, we're talking about sexism.
Great.
Yep.
So first, I want to start off by saying I am a man.
Yeah.
If you guys disagree with me, that's fine.
Yeah.
I changed my mind a lot, so don't get too angry at me, please.
So this is our perspective as foreigners looking at kind of just like what's going on here between
Our fingers just touched.
What?
Our fingers just touched when we reached for the cap.
Oh, how romantic. What's going on here with kind of diving into like gender roles and just like how it's kind of interesting. Like Japan in some ways is like mega progressive, but in other ways it's like mega not progressive.
Right. Yeah. So like one thing I wanted to say was, when I first came to Japan, like the sexism really stuck out to me a lot, and I felt like it was really like super sexist here. But then as I live here, I see it's more nuanced than that.
In some ways, yeah.
Yeah. In some ways, yeah.
So as kind of like a little opener,
okay.
There's kind of this thing that like regarding sexism is kind of like I guess I don't know how else to eloquently put this, but it's laughed about.
Here?
So yeah.
Oh, what?
By outsiders,
okay.
I would say like maybe people in other countries. And
They're like, Japan is so sexist.
Yeah,
it's such a shame.
So this was in 2022.
Yeah.
The Minister for Women's Health was at the time a woman who was a mother of one child, and she was replaced because she was thought to. Anyways, I'm not going to get into why she was replaced. She was replaced with a 41-year-old man who was married with no children.
Wow.
And this guy's awesome idea was. After being
what was his name? Can you see the name of the
it was let's see. He's a former Bank of Japan official, Masanobu Ogura.
Okay. Ogura
right.
Masanobu. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, so he took over as the new Minister of Women's Health.
Oh, great.
Which is like, first of all, the idea that a guy's the Minister of Women's Health is just like, ooh, that's not a good look.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
So immediately after taking this, he entered this campaign where he wore a pregnancy simulation belly.
Yeah.
Which was this like prosthetic belly that was like meant to simulate being a woman who is 7 months pregnant.
Yeah, right. Which
is just like, I mean, your wife has been pregnant twice. My wife's been pregnant once. Yeah. Both of us who are not women but have lived with women know that like there's a lot more that changes with a woman's body than just gaining weight.
Yeah, just like, gaining weight and getting heavy there. Yeah,
like my wife's feet would like swell.
Yeah,
and I was like significantly worried, and like so was she. And then go to the doctor, and it's like, oh no, that's just what happens when you're pregnant.
Yeah,
among like a million other things.
Did she get morning sickness?
In the second trimester.
Trimester.
Yeah. But this guy ended up going to an international conference for women.
Oh, okay.
And Japan was literally the only country there with a guy.
Oh, of course. I mean,
it's like you have all these other people who are like representing women's health, and it's like, then Japan's like, hey, here's this old dude.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh God, that's not a good look. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, even like Parliament now, right? So like a lot of, in Europe, a lot of Parliament is made up of like a lot of women now too.
Yeah.
And in Japan, it's like all old dudes.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't unique
the cabinet, I should say.
This isn't unique to my school, but it's like, we were a girls' school for a whole long time. And it's like the idea that, we had very few women who were like, in the senior faculty and like the kind of like the, the upper management kind of positions. It's kind of like, that's a little odd.
Yeah, it's funny because like you have a statue of the creator of your school, founder of your school, which is a woman.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, it's all men now.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
However, it's not all doom and gloom because you brought up a really interesting point where it's like, I don't want to steal your thunder. Why don't you bring this up?
Oh, thank you, Austin, for letting me speak. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I know
here's your momentary. I interrupted you for this.
I know this is the Austin first and Arthur second podcast.
Yes. Your 45 seconds of discussing before I start talking for the rest of the 30 minutes.
No, so like it really hit me really strongly when we were moving. This is what you were thinking of, right? The moving experience, right? So like so we were moving from where we used to live to where I live now.
Yeah.
And we had a moving company. It was really great, really professional. It was great. And in the beginning, this woman comes up to like in the truck, it's all men and she's the only woman, right? She comes up and she's talking to my wife and stuff about like, the things to expect and like the process and everything. And it's fine. I was like, oh, of course, you have all the men doing the heavy lifting and stuff. She's the one who's supposed to interact with the customers because she's nicer.
Yeah.
No, and then she just went lifting with everyone else, and it turns out she's the team leader.
Dude, that's so cool.
Yeah,
like
because like in America, it'd be like, no, this is not a job.
This is a man's job. What is a woman doing here?
Yeah, basically, big trucks, big men. Why is a woman here? It was mind blowing. Like, oh, she is the leader. She's the one calling the shots, and she's actually doing the heavy lifting too. Like, what?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's not a unique thing. Yeah. You'll see that all the time here. Construction, police officers, firefighters, like it's really crazy. Like if you just look at the daily life of people here, how balanced men and women are as far as jobs.
I feel like in corporate it changes a bit, but in non-corporate jobs.
And I want to say that I'm not talking about how they're treated in these jobs, but just the fact that like you can pretty much look at like any job around here, like maybe in Tokyo. I don't know how it's like in the countryside because, we both live in the city, but at least here in Tokyo, you look at pretty much every job and it's like roughly 50-50 as far as like normal jobs go. You get in some like obscure jobs. Like I'll tell you one thing that really, it was very noticeable. I went to the government office the other day, just to resolve some like paperwork with my daughter, right? And so my wife and I are there.
Government means like government of
the city hall.
Of city hall, okay.
And so I was looking around at the city hall, and it was really odd to me. And I looked around, and literally all of the people working at city hall, everyone was a woman.
Really?
Wow. I noticed that right away, and I was like, well, there's literally no guys here at all.
Yeah.
So I find that really odd because when I go to government buildings in the US, I find it's generally kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if you look at like government employees in the US, they're like, it feels like it's mostly men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I haven't been to the United States in like a while. I mean, I do go back, but I haven't been to anything.
Well, have you ever like renewed your license there?
Yeah, I mean, I went to we call it the RMV, not the DMV, Registry of Motor Vehicles.
You just, every time you talk about the East Coast, I just am more and more convinced we don't live in the same country.
It's Massachusetts, man. It's only Massachusetts where it's called the RMV.
Just some magical land. He is actually not from America.
I am from Germany. I'm from fake America. I'm from like I'm from the better version of America. Let's just say that.
The better version.
The better version. Okay. Come on, East Coast is the...
No one knows Massachusetts over here. You talk to the average Japanese person, I bet you they know Seattle.
Well, dude, you're comparing states and cities, right?
Okay.
Boston versus
California.
Seattle. Okay, California should be its own country.
Yeah, I mean,
California's the size of Japan, okay?
So you're not wrong.
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, so like what one thing that like really hit me was like Studio Ghibli animation, because it's all like super strong female leads.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, because in Disney you have like a lot of female leads too, but they're always getting saved by a man.
Yeah, it's like Disney's like really distilled like the princess thing, and they're you can tell they're trying to break away from it now, because they're like redoing all the princess movies, and now they're like the princesses are like strong heroines.
But they do that by making the guys look stupid.
Though. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think Ghibli did a really good job where it's just like all the stories that Ghibli does, they're just stories about women. Like there's no romance hardly in it. Like Howl's Moving Castle is the only one where I can really think of that like really has romance.
Spirited
in it.
Away has like a little bit, but like not that much.
It's like but it's like a 10-year-old girl, so it's like it doesn't. It's like nonsense romance.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's yeah.
But yeah, so it's like for me it's weird because it's almost like those things are not a thing here. Whereas in the States, it'd be like, oh look, we employ women this percent, or like, oh look, we have a strong female character in our movie.
Yeah.
And instead of in Japan, it's like, well, that's taken for granted,
Yeah. No, I agree.
But I want to switch it. Where do you feel like things are really sexist though?
That's still like, man, it's hard to pin down and really just say one. I think, I mean, the low hanging fruit would be The Office.
Yeah.
Women are significantly more under the stare of scrutiny when it comes to office clothing than men are. Men can get aware, like just something as simple as like you'll see in the office over here, and like I personally haven't experienced this because I don't wear makeup, but I've had my friends talk to me about this, and guys will come up and talk to them in the office and say, "Oh, you're not wearing any makeup today."
Yeah.
Huh? Why? Are you feeling sick?
Yeah.
Huh? Or casual comments are like, "Oh, you look really cute today." Just stuff like that, and it's. Honestly, I'm sure these guys are just being dumb and not really thinking about how, like, what their statements are saying. But it's just like, no one's coming up to me and be like, yeah, Austin, you know what? You just look cute today.
Yeah, right.
I really like your attire. And it's like, no, that doesn't happen to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
Maybe I'm just not handsome enough.
It's funny, though, you say that because... like I remember, so my wife and I, we got married when we were very young. I was 25, she was 24.
Yeah.
And I remember early on in our marriage, she had a discussion with her mom because she didn't wear makeup so much because she wanted to keep her skin nice, And I remember she was telling me how like she had a discussion with her mom about how it is polite to wear makeup. It's actually rude to not wear makeup.
Yeah.
And that's a weird thing for me.
Yeah, it's, that's you brought up a good point because it's not just men who are perpetuating like sexism specifically against women.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I feel like older generation kind of looks at the younger generation as like, well, I had to deal with this, so you need to deal with this now.
Yeah.
That's definitely, it really feels that way.
Yeah.
Another thing that really is very noticeable, especially if you come here and visit Japan for the first time, is like school uniforms. And like the disparity between boys' uniforms and girls' uniforms.
What do you mean?
Like in junior high and high school.
Yeah.
It's like girls just wear like the cute little sailor skirts and like the sailor outfit, and boys are just like it's kind of more resembles a suit.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know, the impression that I got when I first came here was like, oh, you guys just aren't taken seriously. It's like, oh, look, you got your little cute dress on, you're going to school, and like boys, it's like, I got my suit, I'm becoming an adult kind of. That's the image that I got when I first came here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's so something for me that I think, you know, when I first moved here, I was really surprised at a lot of things, and I was actually kind of disappointed at a lot of things, not necessarily related to sexism, but I remember coming here and thinking, wow, Japan is westernized so much.
Oh, really? Okay.
And because, you know, I would think, oh, like, you know, Japan is more the traditional thing from like Tokugawa, Edo period, whatever. Like, I mean, that was the way I thought before, right? Mm-hmm. But what I've seen is like so you have kind of like two levels here in a lot of things. You have the surface level, but then you have like the deeper undercurrent. And one thing that was really interesting for me, I learned about this recently, is you know how in Japan like the public baths are kind of disappearing in Tokyo because there's still a sufficient number. In Tokyo, there's a sufficient number of people, so they're still here. Yeah. But if you go out into the suburbs, like in Niigata, in the whole state, it's the longest state in Japan. Yeah. Prefecture in Japan. There's 5.
That is depressing.
Yeah. And there used to be like tons of them.
Oh my God. But that's horrible. Bring back the baths.
Well, it's because people live so far away and they would have to drive, you know, and like no one's going to drive to go to a bath. Yeah. But back then, you know, people would work in the field together. Men and women would work in the field together, and they would actually go into the baths together too. Like they didn't separate men and women. Yeah. The konnyoku, like taking baths together was seen as a normal thing because you work together, you take a bath together, totally fine. Yep. And then another thing that's really interesting for me too is like, men's bathrooms have no privacy. Men's public bathrooms here. Like if you're like in an izakaya street, it's like so true. It's like the doors open and they can see the urinals, and like if you turn around, they'll see you, you know? Yeah. And it's like, I remember when I first came here, I'm like, dude, girls can be walking by and they can like see guys peeing. Like, how are you okay with that? And even in the Shinkansen, right? Yeah. The Shinkansen, they have like a urinal stall, which is unlocked
with a glass window too.
There's a glass window. You can see someone's in there, right? Yeah. And like in America, that would feel like a huge invasion of privacy, right?
100%.
But it's like traditionally there wasn't like as much separation of the sexes. Yeah. Which I think carries out in like some part of consciousness. But then, like you said, there's another level, like the service level, where the Minister of Women's Health is a man.
Look at my prego belly. Yeah.
I know, right? Yeah.
What are you doing, man? Why would you wear that thing? Oh God.
But that's where like this kind of thing is really confusing for me, because like I feel like in the States people are like, it must be this way. Yeah. Like if it's not this way, it's sexist. Yeah. And but you know, but then again, you know, I remember in Seattle, all of the Japanese teachers in my university. Is this empty? Do you want to just break out the other one?
Okay.
Yeah, just go get it. We had a very nice
long night, everybody. Yeah, we got our podcast right after this one too.
Yeah, the live one. Yeah, no, we did a very long, totally unrelated episode that you'll see before this. I don't think anyone's gonna watch it, but we drink a lot.
I'll watch it.
Yeah, thanks, man. So, but
like how raspy my voice is today. It's
okay. You sound like an old man.
Oh yeah. This is just because I'm still sick.
Yeah. Okay, let me see. What's this one? Homare Daiginjo, whatever. Junmai Daiginjo.
Sweet.
Oh, it smells good.
It was very fragrant, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, you like the Daiginjo, man, so I got this for you.
Daiginjo is amazing. Yeah. It's my favorite sake.
So what do you feel are the hang-ups that a lot of foreigners get when they look at Japan? They say, Japan is so sexist.
It really depends on who you're talking to. I think something that's really readily apparent is the difference in who is coming to Japan.
Okay.
When you look at the foreigners who are typically staying here, they're men.
Okay.
And I think the reason for that is because especially coming from a Western environment, I think the women, when they come here, they feel like they can't break out of their gender role.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's like, especially in America, like if you look at marriages, right? Like between a husband and wife, just like I'm gonna probably offend somebody by saying this, but like a typical marriage between a man and a woman, right? You have a dad and a mom, right? the roles between those two in the US, I think in this current time can be very fluid, right?
Very
Dad can do mom's job, mom can do dad's job, and it's kind of like both people are kind of working together just to kind of make a functioning house, right? Whereas in Japan, you can definitely see that, but I think
it's mainly our generation that's doing it now.
It's mainly our generation. Like gender roles are still very rigid here.
Yeah.
And it's like, especially when it comes to relationships, there's like very clear expectations on what a man should do and what a woman should do.
So speaking of that, so my wife's parents, when I go back,
yeah,
they feel really awkward when I pick up my plate and take it to the sink after dinner.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't need to do that. That's not what you're supposed to do. I'm like, yeah, but
yeah.
I mean,
and it's the same thing. Like I remember, my wife's aunt visited us like right after my daughter was born. I think my daughter was maybe like 2 or 3 months old, and she was visiting us, and I was changing my daughter's diaper, and she's like, "You know how to do that?"
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's my daughter. It's a diaper. It's not a complicated mechanism. She's like, my husband doesn't know how to change a diaper.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah. So
what?
I mean, in all fairness though, so like my dad, right? So my dad's parents' generation, this is back in the 50s, whatever. Like my grandfather, he would be sitting in the living room watching TV. The phone would ring right next to him. And he'd call over his wife. He's like, "Hey, Dottie, come pick it up. There's the phone ringing." And she would walk from the kitchen into the living room next to him to pick up the phone.
Boston accent?
Yeah, she'd be like, "Oh, hi, how you doing?"
How you doing?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's true. She didn't sound like that back in the 50s, but that's how I remember
Yeah, that's
her.
how everyone sounded in the 50s. Oh, hey, how's it going, sir?
Dude, I miss the days when like the Boston accent was closer to like the standard American English.
Oh God, I don't. It's like
it.
it's painful to listen to.
Don't ask what your country can do, what you can do, what you
can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
guy was dead before I was even born. Not important.
Oh, dude, that's a horrible thing to say.
No. He was a president.
But yeah, so gender roles, like people, like especially women coming here, they feel like they can't break out of their gender roles.
Yeah. And and not just women. I feel like it's harder to do that, or it's just as hard to do it as a guy here too, because I think there's very clear gender roles as a guy here. However, I do think that guys are put in a more dominant position.
Yeah,
here.
of course. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I actually think that women have more freedom in Japan than men do.
Why?
I know that might be a very controversial opinion.
Okay.
But I think the reason for that is,
before we cancel you, please tell us.
So the reason why I think that is, if you look at like I said, I think the gender roles are a little bit rigid over here, and I think what's expected of a man, especially in marriage, right, is the guy is the breadwinner.
Yeah.
And so what you'll see is a lot of these guys wake up at 5 a.m. You know, I get up at 6 and I'm riding the train with these guys, and they get up at 5 a.m. and they go to work and they come home at like 10, you know, and that's like a very common work routine.
Yeah.
And to be fair, a lot of these guys do end up going out drinking and staying later. So I mean, that's on them, but still, like the workload and the expectation for this, it's like you still see a lot of single income families here. Yeah. And so like there's a lot of pressure on that guy. And it's actually a really big reason why the suicide rate's so high here. Because if you look at the suicide rates in Japan and just in the world in general, it's predominantly men.
Yeah.
Like not even close.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing here in Japan, because like there's so much pressure on men to provide for their family. It's like if a guy loses his job or gets a demotion, it's like, well, you know what? I could take this job loss, or I could just not be a burden on my family, and you end up losing your life. And so it's like men's mental health is like a kind of like a hidden problem here that's not really discussed. So that's what I was talking about in the sense that I think that in some ways women have a lot more freedom here in Japan than men do.
Yeah, but I also feel though that like a lot of women here, they're kind of pushed into the housewife role, or housewife plus I work a side job, baito, right?
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, so like a lot of people feel like they can't shake that. So when I was teaching here before I started IU-Connect and everything, I would do lessons with these really depressed housewives. They were really rich, but they would drink a bottle of wine every day.
Yeah, that's true. I will counter that though. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
But I will say, from my experience, the vast majority of people that I see traveling are women here in Japan.
You mean traveling for fun?
Traveling for pleasure, not for business.
That's true, yeah.
Right? And a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time they're traveling alone. Like it's very common here in Japan to see husband stays home and works, wife goes to Paris. Or goes to New York, or goes and travels and gets to experience things, and so it's like I feel like you do see women that are stuck in the housewife gender role, but it's like at the same time they're also able to kind of experience life a little bit more. So the main point I'm trying to say, it's not this competition between who's suffering more, but the main thing I'm trying to say is like, I think at a surface level, it's really easy to look at women and go, wow, women have it bad here.
Yeah.
And, if you look a little bit deeper, it's like, well, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do have it bad here, but not entirely, but yes, they do. But also men have it really bad here, but also they kind of run everything here. So it's like, who's really making it bad for everyone?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So basically, work sucks, and people need to not do it so much.
Well, so I think getting rid of mandatory expected overtime is the first step to making things a lot more equal. Yeah. Because it's like, when we talk about these societal things, I feel like I don't have very much to contribute, because the closest part of Japanese society, like communal society that I was a part of, was college. And then after that, I've never worked at a company here. I've always worked by myself, Well,
something I want to bring up, I'm sorry, there's a really interesting point, but
please interrupt me. This is the Austin and Arthur show.
The Austin and Arthur show. You gotta get that like intonation there. Austin and Arthur.
It's the Austin and Arthur show.
Yeah. No, I jest. But
I jest,
sir. But one thing that I think has been really great for women, specifically in this country, and it's kind of brought them a little bit more in line, especially in the business environment, is ironically COVID.
Okay.
And what do I mean by that? I'm obviously not talking about the disease itself, but that period from 2000 to 2023 brought about sweeping changes across the world as far as how people conduct business.
Yeah.
So like the first one was telemarketing, or
work from home,
telework, not telemarketing. I hate telemarketing.
Yeah.
Telework is great. Everyone loves telework.
Yeah.
But telework, so working from home. So like there was all these big innovations in like a real easy one to talk about is Zoom, right? So it's all these conference call, like webcam kind of thing that allowed people to, do office work from home. That and the introduction of the 4-day work week.
What?
Yeah.
Not in Japan though, right?
I just burped. I'm sorry. Yes, it is being implemented in Japan, but very slowly.
Okay.
So the 4-day work week is something that's really rapidly growing in the US. Europe's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, Europe's like
so far ahead of like Asia and America in terms of like work-life balance.
Yeah. Okay. That's going to be a whole nother podcast episode, but on the surface, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the surface, it's so far ahead,
and
it looks great, and everything's magical in Europe.
Yeah.
That's sarcastic, by the way.
Yeah.
You've
never been to Europe, man.
No, I'm not, but I am a big fan of the 4-day work week.
Yeah, 4-day work week is nice.
So a lot of American companies adopted the 4-day work week, or a 5-day work week, but one's a work from home day, right? And that has slowly been adopted by some companies here in Japan. Obviously, it'd be nice if it picked up the pace because I hate working more than 4 days.
Although yeah, so but to be honest though, so I remember because I met you in the throes of COVID. I think it was like 2020 when we first met.
Yeah.
You didn't like doing online classes.
I didn't like doing online classes, but that wasn't because I didn't. Okay. All right. Let me explain why. I think classroom settings are terrible online. I think work settings are great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. It sucks. So the reason why teaching classes online sucks is because I'm teaching teenagers. And teenagers are at home with all their stuff. And I can't see what they're looking at.
Yeah.
So they could be playing Mario Kart. They could be watching YouTube.
U2? I mean, they could be watching U2 the band too. I mean, that's a nice band.
They could be watching YouTube. They could be doing a million different things, and I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And it's very noticeable the difference in education that people of all levels, like elementary to college, got during that time. Okay. And pretty much it's unanimous. Everyone would say that the education was significantly worse.
Yeah.
So I think education is one of those things where it's like you can't do remote work, or at least you can't do classes remotely and really have it replace things. But a lot of other jobs can. Yeah. And what this has ended up doing is there's a lot of women, especially here in Japan, that want to work, but they're housewives.
Yeah.
So they can't do like a 5 or 6 day work week, but they could do 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Right? That's something that like they have the time to do. And because of that, like the work week, the idea of the work week getting smaller, it's like all of a sudden, like you can get these women working. So it's slowly happening.
Yeah.
Right. And you saw it a lot during COVID.
Yeah. Well, that's really good.
Yeah.
But, speaking of that, so because your school is not a girls' school anymore, but it was when we worked there.
Yeah.
So, like, did you guys touch upon, like, sexism in Japan at all or anything like that? Like, how did that inform your interactions with them?
We did. So there was a huge push for pushing women into STEM.
STEM is what?
Science, technology, engineering, and math. It's kind of like widely considered the important areas in college.
Yeah.
It's like
moneymakers.
Yeah, it's like the moneymakers. Not saying that like, things outside of STEM are not important, but like they're not viewed as important.
Yeah.
And that could be a problem also. I mean, I'm a liberal arts major, so it's like
me too. But in all fairness, like if society was crumbling and they had to pick between like a systems engineer,
they're not going to pick the English major.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I know. My degree sucks too.
It's okay, man. My degree was Japanese, and I'm using that a lot now. So,
but yeah, so there was a big push there, and I actually think that was a really not a great thing to do.
Really? Why?
Because I don't think it wasn't just my school. I've seen this push like to bring women to STEM before. Because it was on my college campus when I was in the US. And I've seen it in other schools here. And it's like, it feels very forced. It's like, oh, okay, there's 100 engineers in this class and only 3 of them are women. Okay, we need more women. Men, you're bad.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's not the approach. And it's like, if I were a woman, like I don't see really anything attractive with engineering.
Yeah.
So I feel like just telling women they need to be engineers is like it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
What needs to happen is you need to approach women when they're little girls.
Yeah.
And when I mean that, I'm talking like 3 years old, 4 years old. Okay. Those girls need to stop being given like stuff that just shows girly stuff.
Yeah.
And like what I mean by that is like Barbie stuff. I'm talking about like just playing with dolls and like pretend being a mother and everything. It's like, that's important, but it's like, you look at the toys that boys are getting at that age. Like boys are getting Lego sets.
Yeah.
Boys are getting like all these like things that like stimulate the mind.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like a boy who ends up growing up and being an engineer, where do you think he got that interest from?
When he was a kid.
You think he was picking that out like when he was in college and like, man, I love drawing lines and math. That's what I love. No, of course not. He was building Lego sets, right? And it's like you see that often. Like, I mean, my nieces all play with Legos and stuff, and I think that's great. But it's like you need to be stimulating women like that.
Yeah,
that's how you get women engineers.
Yeah, it's not like because you got to get it before the mindset. Yeah, because people would say that there's like implicit sexism, societal sexism, like people.
And it's like if you do it the other way, where you're forcing people in. All you're doing is taking people, and I don't want to sound offensive when I say this, but you're taking people who are subpar. Because like you're taking like, okay, let's say you have like 96 engineering majors that are men and 4 that are women. Okay, a company needs to hire engineers, and there is a requirement. Like, let's say they need 4 engineers, right? And there's a requirement put upon the company for diversity hires that out of those 4 engineers, 2 of them need to be female. Okay, well. The pool of those 96 guys is just 2 slots versus the 4 women who are engineers is also 2 slots. That means 50% of the women who graduate from that are going to end up getting that job. Whereas like just the literal top 2 guys in that group are going to get the job, you know, and that sucks. That feels really bad. So it's like, you gotta really approach this from like a way younger age and inspire women to have that interest, and then you will see like the levels balance.
You know, like so this made me think about this. Like, so one of the things I really respect about my wife Natsumi is you know, I met her at Aogaku when I was doing Ryugaku there. And the regular school, not like the Aotan janakute. She was doing the 4-year university. But originally she was doing the 2-year university, which is like for girls to go because they're gonna get wifed up soon. So like
they got the wife degree.
So so I got my associates, you know, why would you go that hard, you know? But she was telling her parents, you know, like, oh, I want to go to 4-year university. Like, why would you do that? You're just gonna get married. You know? And so she was fighting that, right? But then she overcame that. She went to Aogaku, and like that was when she told me that story, I was really impressed by that, right? But then like we need more of that. But then I also noticed like after we got married, she really like moved into a very domestic, traditional female role, like what was expected. And you know what you're saying here is like it really comes down to how the parents interact with the kids. I think, you know, with my son, he loves purareru, he loves trains, but he also likes taking care of the baby dolls and feeding them. And
that's great.
I love both of those, you know, like.
I mean,
more power to him.
It's like just like girls at a young age need to be exposed with more like mind stimulating things. I think boys also need to be presented with like home care toys. I think that's really important. It's like, because like the concept of cooking, like most men, including myself, dude, I hate cooking.
My son helps me cook now.
And that's 3. Great. That's great. So it's just like that's one of the things that I'm really hopeful for Japan in the future. That these roles get adopted. These roles become a little bit more fluid, where people kind of move in between. One thing I will say, however, is I think the idea of being a housewife here is very. There's no negative opinion. Well, I shouldn't say there's no, but like from society's point of view, there's not a lot of pushback. Whereas in the U.S., if like a woman said that they're a housewife, there's like a real negative view on that.
Oh, you decide to be only a housewife?
You're a housewife? Wow, do you just wear a collar all the time and let your husband decide everything? And it's like it's like it feels like this agency is taken away from you. Like, oh wow, you're so pathetic. You're just a housewife. There's a lot of that viewpoint in the U.S. and I really don't like that because I think there's nothing wrong with being a housewife, but there's a problem if it's forced on you. You know what I mean?
If you choose that role, because like in all honesty, like being a housewife is about raising the next generation full time.
It's a very important job.
That's like the most important job, right? And so I feel really honored, and I feel really lucky that my wife, she has not chosen to be a housewife. She has chosen to be a full-time mom.
Yeah.
And she has chosen to really invest in our kids full-time. And she could get a job if she wanted to. And there are times when she says, she's told me multiple times, she wishes she had a job that made money, Yeah. And I understand that. that.
Yeah.
But I also feel like it's a privilege for me that I'm able to create the environment where she can spend full time to raise our kids to be the best people that they can be.
She doesn't have to work.
Yeah, you know, and it's like, because in the end, like,
sorry, you don't make enough money.
I know, but it's like, dude, you'll get there. You're getting there. No, but
Rich
it's like
one day.
But it's like it's all about how the parents interact with the kids. And
100%.
like, if you have the parents who support their kids in whatever they do, they don't try to push their preconceived notions on them. They just let them be who they are.
Yeah.
Things would be a lot happier. And I'm happy that I feel like we're doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I fully intend on, it's not like I'm not going to ever get my daughter a Barbie doll or, of course I'm going to get her a Barbie doll. It's like young women want to have toys that represent them.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like at the same time, I'm going to get Legos.
Yeah.
Well, partially because like I want her to play with Legos. But I want to play with Legos.
Yeah, I want to play with Legos. So
I freaking love Legos, man.
Low-key, I'm buying the Predator stuff for me.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited. Actually, my coworker just bought this today. Obviously, my daughter's way too young for this, but in 2 years, like once she's around 3, we're getting the Lego Advent calendar.
Oh man.
Or is it Advent calendar? Christmas calendar? Not
same
Advent.
thing. No, Advent calendar is the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, anyways. But yeah, dude, do you know about that?
Yeah.
Have you done it?
I haven't done it.
Oh, dude, it's like crack for children.
Yeah.
Like once you get it, you got to get it every year. Like they're obsessed with it because like every single day is like a little Lego figure or like some tiny little Lego thing.
Yeah.
And it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I want it.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's kind of like what we did with my son, right? We would even when he was like 5 months old or whatever, like he had like barely any cognition or whatever.
Yeah.
Like we would get toys for him and we would pick like 3 different toys.
Yeah.
And we would let him pick whatever he wanted. Sometimes he'd pick the pink one. Sometimes he'd pick the blue one.
Yeah.
But most of the time he'd pick the yellow one. He loves yellow.
My daughter's obsessed with yellow.
Yeah.
She loves yellow and orange. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yellow is great because it's like, Lewis has so many yellow clothes now. He loves yellow so much.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, I think this is a good place to end this episode.
We gotta get ready for our podcast.
For our live
podcast.
Yeah. See ya.
All right.
Alright, 最後までご覧いただき誠にありがとうございます。やっぱり英語が話せるようになったらこういう会話ができたら嬉しいなと思う方が多いと思うんですが、問題があります。英語のフレーズ、文法をたくさん学ぶのに、いきなり外国人と対面するってなると、頭が真っ白になって言葉が出てこないっていう問題ですね。僕も同じように日本語を4年間勉強したのに、実際に日本に行ってみたら、全く話せなくて本当に悔しかったです。でもその経験のおかげで実際に話せるようになる鍵を発見して、その鍵を生かして英語が実際に話せるようになった生徒が900人以上います。で、その鍵を今回の動画でシェアすると長くなるので、知りたい方のためにいつでも確認できる無料ガイドにまとめてみました。もしあなたは動画を楽しんでいるままで十分と思っている場合は問題ないです。ぜひこちらの動画をご覧ください。でももしあなたは英語を学ぶだけではなく、生の世界で外国人と実際に話せるようになりたい気持ちがあれば、You can get the free guide by clicking up here, or by clicking the link in the description box below. As always, enjoy your English adventures and I can't wait to see you in the next video. これからも一緒に世界とつながりましょう。See you next time!